All right, hello everyone. I'm going to be talking about 3D in Illustrator, Photoshop, and Project Felix. Oh yeah, I got some cool music going. Let's take it down a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to dive into this. I think it's going to be really fun. Essentially, it's going to be covering 3D, pseudo 3D in Illustrator, and into Photoshop, where I'm going to talk about compositing with 3D, as well as 3D printing, all the different things you can do, importing elements as well, and then also I'm going to dive into Project Felix. So I'm going to cover all your 3D needs, and I think that would be great. Let me just mute this. Sorry about that. And let's dive right in. Hello, Afazari. How are you, my friend? How is everybody doing today? Where are you guys coming from? Where are you from, Jose? Tell me. Gonzalo, Andre, Mike, land of Connecticut. What's up? Good to... I've never been to Connecticut. Wow, that's... I need to go. Juan, tell me where you guys are from. I'm here, Denver, Colorado. Just did a Spartan race yesterday, actually, so I'm moving kind of slow. Glad I get to sit down and just relax and create some cool artwork, which is what I'm going to do right now, okay? So I'm going to dive into this. This is being recorded, so I'm not too worried about it. And, yeah, Project Felix, Brian, we'll dive into that. I really want to make some fun stuff there. Iceland is in the house as well, so hopefully audio sounds good. Let me know if you guys have any issues. I'm keeping track of the chat, but I'm looking on my other screen because I can easily see. You can see that I have, obviously, Illustrator going, right? So we have some fun text, and I'm going to dive into this. Hello from New Jersey, Germany, Czech Republic, love Czech Republic. Spain, have a friend who's biking through the south of Spain right now, by the way. Beautiful photos. Germany, found out there's about 20, I'm about 20% German and French, I guess. It's recent for me. California, be there next week. DC. Good. Pakistan. I love seeing this, guys. Before I get started, guys, actually what I want to do is, when talking about 3D, I was thinking, well, what could I make in 3D? And I wanted to make this really fast. This little gear right here, okay? And you might have wanted... I will be diving into Photoshop 1, but you might have wanted to make something like this, and I think it'd be cool just to make a cool 3D gear, because I think this is really helpful. Ooh, it's already made. Hey, imagine that. Look at that. Let's take that. Let's take it back some. All right, so... I will show you that in a second, but let me just reset it to some, just like that. Music brought to you by Andrew Apple Pie. All right, I would love to come to Rwanda. All right, so here I am, guys, just to kind of start with an element that I want to turn into 3D. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to make this 3D gear right here, okay? And I've already drawn something. You can see this is just a circle, right? Nothing crazy here. But what I want to do is I actually want this to basically be, to give it all of these, I forget what these little cogs, basically. This is a cog, but all these different little, I don't know, like nubbins? Let's call them nubbins. How do we make those? Well, this is the easiest way, guys, because I can step and repeat and do all that fun stuff. I think it's easiest to do dashed line, click. I just added dashed line right in there. And as I increase the weight, you can see you can get some really interesting results. Okay, so it's like you're traveling at warp speed down a tunnel or something like that. But that's what's happening. I can adjust the dash, right? So I can make it 40 and space out those if I want to. I can make the gap more drastic as well. Let's do the gap 80. Like that. And I got to make sure that it, of course, connects there in the end. But I'm doing all of this with the dash line. So we'll do 40 and 40. Let's fill it with a color as well. Go back over here. Bop. There we have that. And now we have our cog in our wheel. And we'll jump in with path. And we're going to outline the stroke, as we know we do. And yes, my outline is the same color as my color. But this is now an outlined shape, okay? And let's actually make sure it is solid. Pathfinder, like that. All right, so here's my little cog. I want to make it 3D. I can go into Effect, 3D, Extrude, and Bevel. Hello from Tunisia, Nigeria, Slovakia. Oh, so cool. I have not been to Slovakia. I've been to Slovenia, Uganda. Robzilla in the house. Lamont, you are too kind. All right. All right, let's dive into this. All right. So again, this is what I've done. I've made this cog and this wheel, showed you how to do that, clicking preview, right? And now you can see that it obviously is 3D, and I can start to rotate this 3D item. And the cool thing about this is a vector, so it's really easy to work with. You could start to see that highlight. Okay, where's that highlight coming from? Well, if we just go into more options, you'll see it's coming from this light source that I can always change at any point in time. But I really like that highlight right there. Okay, easy to do. Marlon, Colombia is my favorite place in the world. So if my voice is a little hot, I'm going to turn that down, my voice just a little bit. And maybe the music just a little. Okay, cool. France is in the house. Favorite coworker in the world is there. Have lots of favorites though. Michael Shays. Okay, so I'm doing custom rotation, by the way. That's what's happening here. But know if you're ever doing any sort of lettering, you can, and you want something to be exactly right. Yes, you could use these numbers and adjust these accordingly, right? Zoop, zoop. You had to move that all around all day long. Oh, you can actually go into these isometric views. So you might want to do isometric left, and that's easier to pick if you're doing text or any sort of shapes that you want to be consistent. Isometric left, done, and there's my cog in my wheel, okay? And that's what I do with this text. Like, this is what I do. Let's take this, zip. Let's take this text. Let's go Effect, Extrude and Bevel, preview this bad boy, off, isometric left, clicking OK. Taking this text, same thing. Isometric, right. Previewing that one. Clicking OK. And now for both of these, let's make sure we expand the appearance. And now I have these fun letters, right? So this is what I do. Again, since we're talking about sort of this isometric view of 3D items, let's ungroup them. But this is where I do is I take that A, I might want to add this A, so connect that there, have that K right in there. This E, let's remove this, let's drop in this E, right? And this is what I do, just a fun way to work with text, make it something like that. Cool guys, you guys get the idea? Super easy to do. All of this is all still vector, okay? And I can mix it up any way I want to mix it up, okay? In fact, I can start to change the color, because this color is going to be like, it's going to give you all these different shades based on your lighting source. But maybe you want to do is you want to go into your color guide, and I'm going to edit or apply colors, okay? So again, I'm just in Illustrator here. Mick just started about 5 minutes ago, and you can see it's remapping those colors. So I think this is really fun to do, right? So it's taking all these sort of different shades of red that came from the 3D object, and it's mapping them to all these other wild colors, okay? And I can have fun all day long with changing these if I want to as well, right? But I think this is pretty fun. I can click OK, and there you have it. Should have done the same thing with these two selected. That's okay. That's done now. Boom and boom. It's pseudo 3D, guys. I can talk all day long about this. Oh, Camilo, Adobe, what's up, buddy? I like Bogota too. Who doesn't like Bogota and Colombia and Cartagena and Ibagué? Medellin. Who doesn't love Medellin? Who hasn't gotten, hasn't fallen in love with that place, man? Love it. Okay, so let's just go to check this out. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm kind of looking through this. Yes, Michael Shays. It is. My name says right below my big head, as you can see, right? Good to see you, Michael. Rob's in the house. This is always fun and cool to see. So I'm going to get into Photoshop, and I'm actually probably going to go, I can go from Illustrator to Photoshop pretty easily. So that's what I want to do next. But again, this is being recorded. Let's take this, just posting a link. There we go. Cool. All right, got that taken care of. Stream is looking good so far. Yeah, so you're going to have to use closed paths on it, Ken, just so you know. You can't import a 3D model because this is pseudo 3D, so you're going to make everything from scratch. This is your gateway drug to 3D. This is where you start as a designer, as you start in Illustrator making things 3D. So it has to be closed. It can't be, you can't bring in models. You can, a lot of programs can oftentimes can maybe create an EPS or Illustrator file, a vector file, but it's still going to be flat. So Illustrator only deals with flat files. Oh yeah, by the way, don't have time to get into this, but you can actually, of course, take any sort of logo. You wouldn't necessarily in this case, but any typographic design thing that you do, you can actually bring that Illustrator file into, say, Cinema 4D, or really pretty much anything, into Photoshop and extrude it and bevel it and all that fun stuff. So again, everything starts in Photoshop, or excuse me, in Illustrator, right? Everything else is just a finishing tool, but everything's really done in Illustrator, let's face it. Right. Okay, so let me just do this really fast. Here are my symbols. Looks like I already have this defined as a symbol. I want to do something else really fast for you. You ready for this? You ready for this, Michael Shays? And Rob, Robzilla, you guys are pros. I'm sure there's plenty of pros here, right? So what I have is I have this funky shape. Let's not even worry about that chunk of it. But this is basically a simple line, okay? Now check this out. I'm going to take this simple line. I'm going to go to Effect 3D. I'm going to do a 3D revolve. Oh, let's try this revolve. Oh, man. Let's preview this revolve. It's revolved it around that center point right there, which is cool. I can do it left edge or I can do right edge, right? So now I've created this bowl, right? So let's try to peek inside of this bowl, right? So we could adjust our lighting. And now we're peeking inside of this thing that I'm calling a bowl that has just some plastic shading to it, right? So I just made that curved line and now it's a bowl. But now I want to go into map art, okay? And for this mapped art, I'm going to access the checker pattern that I made. And here's my checker pattern that I'm just going to stretch out. Again, just making something fun for you guys. A 3D element. Click OK. Ooh. Let's go to map art. So this is the thing about the sides. There's only two sides. I actually put it on the back side, and now I'm putting it on the inside since we can see it. But look what I'm doing right now. This is the 3D. See it traveling around all the way around just like that. And as soon as I get that connected perfectly, you know, I can seam it up just right. Still working on that. You guys get the idea. And you can see that 3D done. Again, by mapping that texture on the inside. And I probably need to make the lighting brighter, which is what I'm doing right now. All right, highlight intensity. Again, clicking OK, and now you have a fun little vortex. You would never think this is 3D, but this is actually 3D of this one stroke, just extruded, wrapped around that one point. Done and done. Cool. All right, Pakistan, Tariq in the house. Good to see you, buddy. All the flags are here. That's good to see. As I start to hypnotize everyone, we go into down the rabbit hole. As you can see right here. Yes, I needed to seam it up better right here. We could see that. No big deal. Forgive me there. I just wanted to show you this little bonus thing that I did. And I actually want to see if the stroke affects the color at all. Ooh, the stroke does affect the color. And that's, again, it was black. If I turn that to white, that's kind of more along the lines of something that I want. Cool. Done and done. You guys get the idea. I'm going to move into Photoshop. Before I do that, I can always take this and just like do a little clipping mask there. And now we have our fun sort of 3D going on. You guys get the idea, right? Cool. All right, so again, here's where we started. We've done this. You can start to see the end result of a lot of this stuff as I drop in the text in this scene. You can see again, make it. You guys get the idea. Cool. That's pseudo 3D in Illustrator. Call it pseudo 3D because you cannot import a 3ds file or OBJ or anything like that, right? We cannot. But what you can do is you can do plenty of things. Because if you're working on any sort of type, again, I like to start in Illustrator. It doesn't really matter. I've created something cool in Illustrator. Hopefully I didn't do all caps. That's not bad. I probably need to change the font. But basically what I want to do is I need to just, create something simple like this. Make it awesome. Taking this text, let's just copy it. Let's bring it into Photoshop. Pasting it in. We're going to paste it as a smart object. Could also be a shape layer, but I'm going to paste it in a smart object. It's going to add it to my current library. Clicking OK, boom. I just wanted something in here is all, right? There we go. Here's my vector smart object, right? So again, working between Illustrator and Photoshop. There's my shape. Taking that, selecting it, 3D panel, opening that up. Let's create an extrusion right over here. Okay, all those basic shapes and all that good stuff. You guys get the idea. Hello from Utah. Tim's in the house. What's up, buddy? All right. Evil Charisse, what's up? Oh, Lagos. Oh, Joseph, good to see you. Oh, man, I freaking want to go all these places. Let's make a 3D extrusion from that text that I just brought into Photoshop, right? And obviously it makes it 3D, okay? And I'm going to rotate this around. I'm actually rotating the object, as you can see right over here. And remember, it didn't do anything fancy. In fact, let me scoot in this layers panel, right? Because what's happening here is it just made this is my vector smart object. And this is my 3D panel that gives me all my settings. So I actually want to select current view, and then I'm actually rotating this within space, just like that. I'm not that impressed with this text. Guess what? Don't have to worry about that. Don't have to apply that 3D or anything like that. All right. I think there are some questions in here. Oh, Kat, good to see you, Kat. Thank you so much for helping me today. So I think I covered 3D models in After Effects. Works only in closed paths. You could do a line segment. I just showed you the line segment that it would extrude, or at least what I did is like a lathe as it's known. Yeah, so you can do a line segment. And you can, what I typically do is I've outlined that stroke. Michael is also asking about flat paths when they're exported. Yeah, they would be animatable if they're SVG. It's nice how flat and clean they are. And sorry to backtrack a little bit, but these are just flat isometric shapes, that I can start to animate in. So if I take this and I ungroup it, you could start to see the different pieces. And I love that I actually have this full panel right here, for instance, right? I have that full panel. So you could see how you could start to animate this in. And this as SVG would be just fine, would work out just fine. So I could always take that. And if you're familiar with the asset export, there it is. Thank you, my friend. Get in there. And now I can output this as an SVG file, blah, 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 and everything will be fine. So yes. Hopefully that answered that question. Let's move on, because here I have my text and I'm thinking I want to change it. I'm going to double click on this vector smart object. Okay, so this is my library item. Wait for it. It's thinking. A lot's going on. I click something else. Go in the properties for this vector smart object. When you get into 3D in Photoshop, this properties panel matters a lot. And you'd really start to see the data that it will show. So you can see right over here, I want to edit the source of this particular 3D layer. So it has that little box. Okay, just hit edit source, right? And now we're right in here. And I'm going to change this to say something else. In fact, within this vector object is obviously clicking back out. It's actually opening up this original file. So you always have access to the 3D and let's say Adobe Max. I'm switching it up, guys, because I'm going to try to get you guys motivated to go to Max because it's in Vegas this year. So how do you guys feel about that? How do you guys feel about good old Adobe Max being in Vegas? Is that cool? What do you guys think? Let's do sans serif. I'm trying to find a font that isn't horrible. Is my goal. All right, let's do. I don't care what I do. I always end up Balboa extra bold. This is what I want. So here's my font. Obviously, the color is what it is. I can change it to white. Technically, it's white. It did not disappear. Let's go back into Photoshop. It's updated. Remember, this is just that little smart object. And I can do anything I want in here, and it's going to update that 3D object. You'll see it here coming in a second. Yeah, buddy. RG3. Do a little Adobe Max action. Good to see that. I would go if I wasn't already busy. All right, check this out. Look what's happening, guys. Check this out. It's like, hey, it says, hey, when you extruded me initially, when you turned me into a 3D object, I mapped whatever texture or color was there. I mapped it right on there. I think that's super dope, actually. I really like that. But what that is that's actually the texture for this object. So a vector smart object, it's the front inflation material, and I'll just do remove texture. So this is where things get complex, and this is why I want to actually talk about Project Felix. We're going to dive into Project Felix, because essentially what happened with Photoshop, it's like, hey, we made it really powerful in 3D here, but really we're getting you interested in 3D. Ultimately, they probably need something a little more dedicated for 3D. So again, I'm going to select a remove texture, right? Because this is kind of hard to get to. I'm going to show you how easy this is in good old Project Felix, right? Boom, done. Right, let's make it more exciting. I get it. Let's make it more. I'm going to try to make this as cool as possible in the shortest amount of time possible, increasing the intensity of that. Yes, right, boom, just like that. Let's take this San Diego. Oh, this says San Diego. Okay, let's just pretend like this is Las Vegas. I apologize. This is San Diego last year. Las Vegas. Forgive me. Let's pretend like, hey, Vegas has plenty of palm trees. Yes, in the middle of the desert, there are plenty of palm trees. Okay, so let's take this. Let's transform this. Right-click. Flip vertical. Right? Do this. Apply. Move it down. Apply this as a clipping mask. Trying to make something fun for you guys, because that's that text. And what I'm ultimately doing is I'm just doing some fancy compositing with that 3D. Okay, so that's all I'm doing is making it look kind of fun. And remember, at any time I can select that object, and I would probably do something even cooler with it. It's probably more, I'd probably spend more time on this, but you guys get the idea of what I'm going for. That 3D object, it's still there. I just applied a fancy mask on it, and with that mask, let's actually change the color mode. Like, look at that. Isn't this cool? Do you guys kind of see what I'm going for there? See that? See what's happening? Again, that object is still 3D, and I can rotate it, and all that good stuff. If you have the caps lock on, make sure it's turned off when you're dealing with 3D. But anyways, so there's my fancy 3D text as I start to make something kind of cool and increase maybe the field of view. I'd probably give it a little bit more drastic perspective on it. So this goes deeper, and I can always exchange that or change that depth and everything too. Okay. So again, not bad. You guys are, you guys happy? I'm going to move on. I could play with all these effects all day long. That even looks cool. All right, what is our end result? Something probably more like this, right? So this is kind of where I ended up with Adobe Max. You guys get the idea. 3D compositing. Let's move on to answering some questions and then get into Project Felix. How do you copy and apply 3D properties to objects in Photoshop? Oh man, what sort of 3D properties? Like, let's say, for instance, that's a good question. Thank you for bringing it up. Say, for instance, Adobe and Max. These are two different properties. So I have this first one selected, Adobe, right? Right in this last option right over here, these are your coordinates and all that fun stuff. This is the stuff you can copy, like sort of number by number, which is, you know, kind of boring, you know. So you can get these specifics, though, honestly, of the angle and all that good stuff. And also what you want to do is you want to make sure you're applying things to the same scene. So look at right down here. See this Adobe? This is its own little scene. See, look when I look over here. It says Adobe. This is its own scene. So the view is always going to be the same. The light's going to be the same. But what I wanted to do is I wanted the word Max to be different, to have a different scene entirely, which is why I've created this 3D object with a different scene with different lightings, because I wanted the light to come from somewhere else. Okay, but you can copy those coordinates. Oh, it looks like I just moved that to the default camera view. Yeah, so hopefully that helps. Is you actually go to this last setting with your properties, and yeah, that's kind of the short of it. I'm sure it's easier in other programs, but that's where that's at. Okay, will Adobe enable logo animation in Illustrator? We would, but it's kind of like, you know, you end up with this messy animation drawing program. So that's why we have Adobe Animate CC. So that's where you do your animation of those individual characters if you wanted, and that will allow you to output HTML and, you know, you can even output SVG, of course SWF, but mainly HTML. Yeah, so that's how that would work, is you'd actually do it just copy and paste, and then you'd use Adobe Animate CC to do all of that stuff. Okay. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Oh, thank you, Daddy. What a great question. So, difference between 3D and Photoshop, 3D and Illustrator. 3D and Photoshop, this is actually 3D. Okay, so we're actually dealing with 3D shapes. So when I select this 3D layer, I can literally say export 3D layer. And I'm pointing this out to show you that this is what it's actually making. It's actually making a legit 3D file. It says, hey, you know what? I'm going to make an STL or a universal 3D or an OBJ, right? So it's actually creating, you're actually creating in 3D when you're using Photoshop. What you're doing in Illustrator is going to be like a pseudo 3D, because what it ends up doing is sort of like, consider it kind of like a plugin, but essentially this is not a 3D. It's not using 3D math or any of those geometries that can be transferred. You can't export that out as an OBJ, but it does everything you need to do in Illustrator. So that's the short of it. I can show you 1,000 other examples. I actually didn't even get into 3D printing. I can always do that. This is the typical example that people will see. Let's open this up real fast, right? So here's this object. Here we extrude it. It's made it 3D. Hey, guess what? You can import other 3D elements, new 3D layer from a file, so you could download stuff and bring it in, right? And then ultimately from there, you can print it out. So that's what you do in properties. You're saying, hey, you know what? For this object, let's actually change it to this one. For this object with this imported bumper for this phone, let's actually print it out right over here at Shapeways, for instance. But since you know what, you're worth it. Print it out 18 karat gold, right, from Shapeways, and that's how you can actually do 3D printing in Photoshop. It's a matter of actually going to 3D, and you can go down to 3D print. So pretty easy. All right. All right. So say, are you trying to start a contest? The best Adobe Max logo wins a prize. I love the idea of the MAX just being very nebulous, where you can put anything inside of it. I kind of dig that, you know, just the MAX. I think we've done a good job. I think it works well. So, I hope you guys are going. I could probably post the link soon, but I also wanted to get into some compositing using Felix. So again, rather than dealing with all of this and IBLs and all this inflation, what's inflation material? Like, what's that even mean? You know, it's like, well, you know what? Just apply a material, apply an image, right? So it's not necessarily, no 3D software is really in terms that designers know, that I know as a designer, right? So let's simplify it. Let's make it easy to use and really like digestible, if you will. Such a weird term, digestible. I'm not going to eat it. But what do I want to do? I want to launch Project Felix right now. All right. RG3, super dope. I appreciate you saying that, coming from such an amazing illustrator. I appreciate it, buddy. That's interesting. Evil Charisse, dude, first of all, let's talk. I would love to somehow see your what you won. You created something with Max in it, and you were a lucky winner. Totally interested. All right, so 3D in Project Felix, by the way, available to you. You can get it, again, Adobe's Project Felix. Again, you literally use the Googler and pull that up because you can find it, you know, right, and really this top link is what you're going to find. It's 2D and 3D compositing. You're doing compositing. You're not doing any modeling, but you can take those 3D elements. Because ultimately, let's face it, like if I have a 3D model of something so realistic, because the technology is going to get there, basically. I'm going to be able to take anything that's 3D and anything like this. If I'm designing this label for this nice candle that I have going on, yes, it is a whiskey and oak candle. I want to be able to see how this looks on an actual, like a container or bottle or whatever. So that's when I'd want to do some compositing, right? Really for those ads. So again, you guys can get it, download it for free. Let's get this started. New project. Again, remember. Yeah, Juan, I have had a cold, and I apologize, Juan. Clean that nose, son. You are crazy. Yeah, I do need to kind of blow my... I've been so stuffed up, guys. And I still ran the Spartan race. I've had this cold for easily a week. All right, so let's move on. Empty little stage area. Let's move my head over so you guys don't even need to see me, but... Let's move that down. Disregard that. Let's just set that over. There we go. Okay, so you see off to the side, we have, a handy little panel, and it looks somewhat like the layers panel, right? Camera, light, background. Thank you for being so simple, right? We have right here, move tools. Come down here, we can grab some of these objects and start to see what I can do with these objects, right? Ooh. I'm digging some of this stuff, actually. I'm going to drop this in. I'm digging this Ico Shahid, whatever. It's some big, I don't know, we're going to call it some space meteor. It kind of reminds me of Arrival, right? But when I drop this in, I can start to control this. I can move this around with my selection tool. I can move it forward, X, Y, Z-axis, which will be sending it back, right? Here's Y. You guys get the idea. Start to, manipulate and move it accordingly and resize it as well. So I can start to resize based on these different sizes. So if I only wanted one size smaller and the other size larger, you guys kind of get the idea as I start to change it up. I actually think there's this cooler crystal here that I want to use. Let's drop in this crystal. Okay, so here's this crystal. Again, in this case, I want to rotate it, right, around in 3D space. I'll move it up, don't worry, right? It's melting into the bottom, I get it. We're going to move it up. Let's move it up. It's going to be floating over the atmosphere. Again, I'm thinking something like that movie Arrival. Hey, you have this big obelisk hovering over mountains is what I'm going to go for, because I think that would be way cool. But this could be anything. Notice how I'm just kind of grabbing this from a library that is already built in. So all these free items, these are all free, built in just for you. You can see them off to the side. If I want to get more, by the way, so again, we're not just limited to what we see here. There is more. So this is all materials, lights, all that good stuff. Some have textures, so I can go into models, lights, materials. If I want to apply a material to this, we can grab, say, frosted glass and drop that on there. It will change. It's going to make it look white. We don't see it interacting with the background because, quite frankly, we could seriously use a background now. So I'm going to go into my library. Give me 1 second. Sorry for ignoring chat. Sculpting and modeling, you can do extrusion and twisting and rotating, things like that. That's what you could do in Photoshop. There's a lot you can do. You can anything. Most things are made up of basic shapes, so you could do so much in 3D. In fact, I could bring in a 3D object that I created in Photoshop. I can bring it into Project Felix, which is probably what I should have done. All right, that'd be cool. All right, I got to find something sweet. Sorry, guys. I know I have some cool images in here somewhere. All right, let's grab this. Grabbing this mountain range, just dropping it there. Applies that image to the background. Remember, I just had a glass. Was that right? Let's check. Let's go back up here, selecting the crystal. Right, we can see it's the frosted glass material. But let's see what this looks like, because right now down here we have a renderer. What is this renderer? I'm trying to blank. What's the freaking high-end renderer? We have it built into Felix, basically, and I'm drawing a blank. V-Ray. That's what's being used to render this out, by the way. So it's being rendered. Right, so we can see that's just a frosted glass. We don't get a lot going on so far, right? We will, don't worry, we will. Let's minimize this. It's not really even reflecting the environment or anything like that. So let's dive into this with a little more detail. So selecting that background, I'm going to create a light from that image. Well, let's adjust that lighting. Let's make it look fancy. Right, and now we should see it's reflected. Since we've created a light from that image, like an image-based light, you can see obviously it looks hella different. Is that a word? V-Ray. Thank you so much, Nate. V-Ray. Thank you guys for coming to the rescue on that. So again, I think it costs over $1,000 or so. I've never owned it, but now I feel like I own a piece of it since I have Felix now, right? So again, we have that coming through. I can change that up at any time. I can start to adjust the lighting. In fact, what I want to do is I'd rather get this damaged glass because I think I'm going to make it look really dope. Grabbing this damaged glass, I could drop it on here. I can actually just drop it right on the object. And let's see how this damaged glass looks. Let's render that out. Again, this is just the preview. It's not the... You can see this. Look at this. Isn't this cool, this damaged glass? This is kind of more what I want for an obelisk, that sort of thing. So you guys get the idea. Well, anyways, it's not quite the mountain range that I want, but you guys get the idea. You can see how everything's put together and how it starts to change. Another thing I could do if I wanted to get really specific, if I go into assets, let me just grab under, basically on models, I'll drop this guy on. Actually, let's minimize this. This is one version, so let me just kind of remove this and take things to the next level. I'm going to grab a different background, bar interior, new background. And for this background, we are going to use this. We could use this little guy. We could do a number of things, but let's drop on this little wireless speaker. He looks kind of like a, like an astronaut, right? So it's the same process. So for the background, let's create a light from that background image, even though it looks like it matches, it really doesn't. And then I can actually align the camera to the image. So it's going to sense that, horizon line there, which is very clear, by the way, because again, this is like a demo asset. Align camera to image, it's going to put it right on that plane, and it makes that plane obviously aligned to the background image. And I can still adjust it any way I want, right? In this case, I probably want to be like a little bit careful, but I can basically move it around on this table like I'm doing. As soon as I move it up, of course, it's going to be off of the table, but let's kind of bring it right back here like that. And again, with that done, I could see a quick preview, and then I can actually render the full-on thing. All right, get burden. Am I done with Illustrator? I'm never done with Illustrator. Are you kidding me, my friend? I'm going to cover Illustrator scripts tomorrow on Facebook, just so you know. But I did cover a lot of Illustrator, and thankfully this was being recorded. And I think the big thing here, I think there's a lot of really neat things that can happen with the extrude and bevel as you dive into mapping art to different sides of an object. So keep that in mind as you start to take a look at this, okay? Somebody asked about SVGs earlier, and I was drawing it. Actually, you can draw the hidden faces. It'll draw the, the whole side, even though it's just seeing a part of it, but you can actually have it draw the hidden faces if you want to animate that in SVG, because somebody asked about that. Right, so this will do shadows. I don't know if we're going to wait for this rendering to happen, because it might take some time, and I'm running all the desktop apps, and it's going to do that. So in general, here's my renderer. Low, fast. Low is going to be quick, and that's what we want. Autosave, PSD, to my desktop, thingy, right? Let's be exact like that. Let's call it thingy. Let's hit render. It's going to go through and render that out. You'll start to see that shadow come through. Yeah, so you guys get the idea. Yeah, you can map, so you can guys kind of see this coming through. You'll see that shadow come through. Man, I want to cancel this badly. Let's cancel render, just because I want to make sure I'm answering all your questions, guys. As I take a dive into this, by the way, since you're talking about mapping things to objects, I can, for instance, switch this back. I can select this guy as a whole, but I can actually select the pieces. So I'm actually using the magic wand here, okay? So let's just take a look. Magic wand, holding down the shift key, and I'm selecting different parts, because for these different parts, I decided that I want to add a material that is going to be not glass, but clean silver. Something like that. And obviously you're going to see that mapped in there. So if it's a material, then actually you can, you can put it on the object. Okay, you can't just drop on a material, but you can make a material in order to map a texture onto your character or whatever you want to do. PSD layered. Yeah, so you can import OBJ U3D. Usually OBJ is what you're going to want to go with, because that's your basic file format. Again, file, import 3D model. Okay, so that's where you'll do it. And then if I had, and I think an STL will load up, but I should really just double check this. I know it'll load up an OBJ basically, right? And really, you don't really have to make these all yourself. What you actually can do is you can go out to, if you just jump into Adobe Stock, for instance, stock.adobe.com. And I got to wrap this up, guys. I've been going for almost 45 minutes now. This is where you're going to get your assets. Yeah. So say, as graphic designers, we have to learn 3D. We have no choice if we want to stay relevant in the design industry. You know, the big thing is like, you know, just love what you do. I certainly hope you guys, let's try bottle. Since I mentioned a candle earlier, let's do a search for bottle. We want this to be a 3D bottle, so I'm going to go to filter. Actually, I don't need to go filter, right here. 3D, boom. Okay, this gives me all my 3D objects, and you can see a lot of these just say free. So I can literally take this, license and save to something that I call pirate stuff. Right, there you have it. But there are here 3D. If you go into filter, then you can actually view the lights and materials. I would like to double check to see what file format this material is. So we're going to search for bottle material and nothing comes up. But if we go for glass material, we're definitely going to get lots of things. So here's your different materials you could use. You guys got it? OBJ works out just fine. Yeah, so the rendered PSD is layered. And just so you know, .psd, see if I have. Okay, here's one. Just grab this file. This is my guitar PSD. Let's just open this up. This is something I just rendered out earlier because I was playing around with things. And this is how it came through, by the way. You can see the different layers off to the side. It's just going to give you that rendered image and then the background image separated out. I did have a background color at one point, so it put it in just like that. And that gives me the ability to add text or whatever I need to. And obviously we're going to have that layered effect. You can see that that's 3D. Even have that nice little shadow back there too. Sure. You guys get it. Big thing I want to type in here is thank you guys for watching. It's always fun seeing such familiar faces. Watching online, Michael Shays, Juan, Nate, everyone, Evil Charisse, Mike Turner. What's up, guys? I think that's about it for me. You guys get the layered files. I'm going to let you guys play with it. All the stuff is, again, it's actually, I don't like to call it free, but you get it with your Creative Cloud membership. You get, you know, Felix. You just got to log in with your Adobe ID is what it comes down to. Don't forget about, of course, all the power you have in Photoshop and in Illustrator. And we'll have more coming your way soon. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Really appreciate all of you. Would love to see if you like what you want to see. If you want to see like more 3D, I'm going to talk about scripts in Illustrator. So like how to randomize elements, how to colorize a lot of elements. Doing a lot of busy work in Illustrator is going to be really fun tomorrow. That's going to be the Illustrator Facebook page. And did everyone have a good time? There's only one in here. Bad joke. Did everyone have a good time, including Juan? All right, guys, that's it. Post any comments you have, as long as they're good. Just kidding. Or anything that you want to see, because we're here to hopefully just add value to your lives and, you know, just make it fun. Right on. I will talk to you guys later. Have a wonderful Monday and a fantastic week. Thanks so much, everyone.